You have another article that you published, I believe, just today, and it's called Anatomy of a Smear, and it looks at the treatment that the media has subjected Rashida Tlaib to. Let's just take a look at your article because it offers a timeline of what happened to Rashida Tlaib. So here it is. It's called Anatomy of a Smear Campaign Against Rashida Tlaib, a step-by-step breakdown of how a lie started, spread, and was picked up on by elected officials and high-profile journalists. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the things that happened, and then we're going to take a look at some videos and tweets and stuff. So this is going to be a great interactive ride. Okay. So earlier this month, September 12th, the Michigan lawmaker, Rashida Tlaib, called out her state's Democratic Attorney General, Dana Nessel, for announcing charges against 11 pro-Palestine protesters at the University of Michigan. Okay. And here is what she said. Instead of getting justice, not one criminal charge in the Flint water crisis, you're going to spend time in trying to use the power of your office to silence people's First Amendment right. Now, it's notable that Dana Nessel, in addition to being a smearer, as we'll see, she also helped tank the prosecution of Rick Snyder, the Republican governor of Flint, Michigan, who played a key role in poisoning the people of Michigan. Okay. So then she also says, Tlaib, this is a move that's going to set a precedent, and it's unfortunate that a Democrat made that move. You would expect that from a Republican, but not a Democrat, and it's really unfortunate. We've had the right to dissent, the right to protest. We've done it for the climate, the immigrant rights movement, for Black lives, and even around issues of injustice among water shutoffs. But it seems that the Attorney General decided if the issue was Palestine, she was going to treat it differently. And that alone speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs. Okay, so there she is suggesting a bias. She's suggesting what's different about this is that it's about Palestine, right? Now, to understand what happens next, we have to look at a very vile cartoon that was published, a racist editorial cartoon. It's a cartoon of Tlaib, and it says, "Odd, my pager just exploded." And it's a reference to the terrorist attack on Lebanon launched by Israel, and it was appeared on the National Review website, but it was created by Detroit News staffer Henry Payne. Okay, so now it's a great thing to push back on a racist, Islamophobic, heinous cartoon, right? So Dana Nessel decided that she would show her solidarity in an interesting way. So here's how she responded to that racist cartoon. She tweets out, Rashida's religion should not be used in a cartoon to imply that she's a terrorist. It's Islamophobic and wrong. Okay, so far so good. Good job, Dana. Just as Rashida should not use my religion to imply I cannot perform my job fairly as Attorney General. It's anti-Semitic and wrong. Okay, first of all, she makes it about herself. The story is not about herself. It's about Rashida Tlaib. And she also lies by saying that Rashida Tlaib mentioned her religion at all, which she did not. There's not a single quote where Rashida Tlaib mentions the fact that Dana Nessel is Jewish. I assume she probably didn't even know she was Jewish. But don't worry, guys, because Jake Tapper has Dana's back. Let's take a look at this clip. Trigger warning of Jake Tapper.
But do you think
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
But do you think Attorney General Nessel is not doing her job? Because Congresswoman Tlaib is suggesting that she shouldn't be prosecuting these individuals that Nessel says broke the law, and that she's only doing it because she's Jewish and the protesters are not. That's quite an accusation.
Tapper does that segment. Then what's really cool is that someone from the outlet Jewish Insider reports that Whitmer didn't, quote, speak out against Rashida Tlaib's insinuation that the AG changed campus demonstrator because she's Jewish. Tlaib also claimed that Nessel is only charging the protesters because she's Jewish, says the Jewish Insider. And again, there's no evidence that she did that. Absolutely none. Okay, so then what happens? Then our good friend, Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL tweets out something condemning Rashida Tlaib, and of course, Jake Tapper boosted that and tweeted out ADL response to Whitmer on State of the Union today. Okay, now, the Robin to Jake Tapper's Batman is Dana Bash. We've covered Dana Bash and Jake Tapper on the show before. They're both incredibly biased and very, very, very dehumanizing of Palestinians. Let's take a look at what Dana Bash did.
Now to a sad reality, and that is anti-Semitism is everywhere, and it comes from both ends of the political spectrum. But politicians sometimes sidestep calling it out when it comes from a member of their own party. We saw two examples on State of the Union yesterday. First, with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, when my co-anchor Jake Tapper asked about a Democratic congresswoman's accusation that the state's Jewish attorney general was letting her religion influence her job.
Again, that was not said, right? But she's gonna repeat. I'm gonna spare you guys the seeing Tapper again. Then she compares it to this, okay, as if this is related. So that's one example of people not calling out anti-Semitism, according to Bash.
Like I said, Jake, I'm not going to get in the middle of this argument that they're having.
And then there was this exchange with Republican Senator Tom Cotton.
Are you comfortable with that? With Donald Trump saying if he loses preemptively, it's the fault of the Jews, a group already experiencing a rise of anti-Semitism in this country from the left and the right, but still preemptively it's the fault of the Jews?
Well, Jake, Donald Trump has been saying things like this for at least 11 months since the October 7th attack.
I've never heard you say anything like that. If we lose, it will be the fault of the Jews.
But Jake, Donald Trump, again, has been saying for months that anyone who cares about Israel, anyone who cares about the fate of the U.S.-Israel alliance should vote for him.
I'm talking about Jewish voters who vote for any number of reasons on any number of issues.
And he was at an event talking about combating anti-Semitism here and around the world.
Just yes or no, are you comfortable with him using that language?
Jake, it's the same kind of language he's been using for months.
That doesn't mean it's okay.
Yes, but it's his point. Jake, he's the most pro-Israel president we've ever had.
Now, Jake asked that question over and over again. Senator Cotton never answered. Now, Cotton has spoken out when it appears to come from the political left. He actually tweeted there's no place for anti-Semitism in America when Jake posted about people harassing yours truly at a book event.
Okay, because of course Dana Bash was interrupted at a book event because she does things like claim that Hamas rapes its captives without any proof, because she does stuff like not cover the fact that Israel does rape people, which we know because it's documented on video. So Jake Tapper defended Dana and said it was because of her anti-Semitism that she was interrupted. So let's watch a little bit more of Dana Bash.
And David Chalian is back with me. I was grateful for that, as anybody who is the subject and the victim of anti-Semitism, hate, or any other hate. And the key is, which we have learned the hard way, is you've got to call it out no matter where it comes from.
You got to call it out. You don't have to have evidence of it, but you should be calling it out even when it doesn't exist. Okay.
What does it tell you about the inability or unwillingness to do so when it comes from a prominent person in your own party?
That you change your word. It's not an inability. It's unwillingness, and it's because you're putting politics ahead of principle and morality. And that's what both of them did there. It's not very hard to say that Rashida Tlaib saying that Dana Nessel is pursuing charges because she's Jewish is an anti-Semitic thing to say. It is. It is not hard to say that Donald Trump should not be pointing fingers at the Jewish people if he loses this election.
Okay, so we have Jake Tapper, we have Jewish Insider, we have Jonathan Greenblatt, we have Dana Bash, and then that guy all saying, as if it's true, that Rashida Tlaib said that Dana Nessel couldn't do her job because Dana Nessel is Jewish. And again, she didn't mention her being Jewish once. Don't worry, guys. There's a happy ending. And we're going to see some clarifications. So there was some pushback. And here are the clarifications. Here's what Jake Tapper did a full 24 hours later.
I should note that I misspoke yesterday when asking a follow-up of Governor Whitmer, who I asked about this. I was trying to characterize your views of Tlaib's comments. What do you make of those today, noting that Congresswoman Tlaib never explicitly said that your bias was because of your religion, and so it's unfair for you to make that allegation?
Well, a couple things. First of all, in 2022, when my opponent accused me of being a groomer and a pedophile, everyone understood that those were homophobic remarks because I happen to be gay.
By the way, like there's not enough anti-Semitism and homophobia in the world, this woman has to announce that she's Jewish and gay. Just awful.
right? I didn't have to explain it to people. Rashida Tlaib is an individual who's well known for making inflammatory and incendiary remarks that are anti-Semitic in nature. So this isn't the first time that we would have heard these words out of her mouth. I think it's very clear to everybody exactly what she was saying.
So one more clarification. I feel so much better. I mean, that's so great. Jake Tapper went from parroting an accusation, a baseless accusation of anti-Semitism, to saying that's not my idea. I'm just quoting you. So please reiterate your baseless accusation of anti-Semitism. Now let's check out this clarification from Dana Bash. Sorry.
On a story we brought you yesterday concerning Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's comments attacking a decision by Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel to bring charges against pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Michigan. Tlaib accused Nessel of, quote, biases. Here's Tlaib's full quote to the Detroit Metro Times. It seems that the Attorney General decided if the issue was Palestine, she was going to treat it differently. And that alone speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs. Now, Tlaib did not reference Nessel's Jewish identity. Her office has not responded to our request for clarity. Her allies insist that's not what she meant. But Nessel still says she believes it is anti-Semitic and repeated on CNN yesterday that, quote, clearly she's referencing my religion.
Okay. So Prem, talk us through this.
So there was a few things that kind of stuck out as we went through them. Of course, you showed things as they were. Firstly, with regards to Rashida Tlaib's comments, there have been some that have said, oh, but she just said biases. She didn't necessarily say exactly where those biases came from. As you alluded to, she was talking about how it seems as if this office is responding more heavily towards pro-Palestine protesters than to other protests in the past. Moreover, Tlaib, in the original interview, for which that interview was then sort of twisted and led to this cycle, she also mentioned in that original interview this idea that perhaps the university officials pressured Dana Nessel's offices to proceed with these charges. And so she wasn't necessarily just only going after Dana Nessel. She was actually making it seems like a broader structural systematic critique of sort of institutions in America and perhaps their anti-Palestinian bias. And that isn't me editorializing. That is me looking at her exact language of saying, yeah, like I think the university officials pressured the office to do this.
Wait, people may not be used to this. So Prem is actually representing reality. So Prem may not look like a typical journalist because, as we've seen from Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, that's not what they do. They obviously make stuff up. So I just want to make sure that people can follow what you're saying, despite the fact that it's not defamation, but it is journalism. People may think these days that's what journalism is. Okay, sorry, keep going.
That's okay. So
I had to clarify.
there is that basic feature that I think is worth noting. There was another aspect that I thought was interesting, which was in that conversation between Jake Tapper and Senator Cotton, where, of course, Cotton was trying to defend these awful remarks from Trump, where he keeps saying over and over again, there's something wrong with Jewish people if they don't vote for me.
Right.
Of course, that's a very gentle paraphrase of some very vicious things he says.
Right. He said that not only is there something wrong with it, but that if he loses, it'll be because of them.
Yes, and Jake, to his credit, mentions like, look, like first of all, it doesn't matter if he said it for 11 months, like it's messed up either way.
Right.
B, Jewish people have opinions on any number of things, not just Israel, and so it shouldn't matter if Trump is the most pro-Israel president or candidate in the race, because like Jewish people can have opinions on many things, which again would underscore the idea that support for Israel is not equivalent to Jewish people's identity.
Right.
And so it was interesting to sort of see him kind of, I think, rightly, confront that issue when Tom Cotton is making these ridiculous claims by saying, no, it's fine because Trump is so pro-Israel. Well, it's like, no, but he's saying just awful things about Jewish people. So that was one just interesting aspect of that interview that I think it's good to see.
It's almost like Jake, for the first time ever, got that being Jewish is not inherently linked to supporting Israel.
Which is, yeah, it's important because, as we've seen, so much vicious anti-Semitism comes from that premise.
Yeah.
And finally, one aspect that I think is just worth noting with Dana Nessel's response in the follow-up interview was when she sort of cited what she called inflammatory, incendiary, anti-Semitic in nature comments that Rashida Tlaib has made in the past. Of course, many times these comments that she's accused of making that were also anti-Semitic in nature were born out of cycles like this as well. So
Exactly.
it's sort of it's interesting for, as we've seen, this was a peddled lie and a peddled bastardization of something she had said. It is notable for one to then cite previous instances of similar cycles as proof that this cycle is also justified.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think overall, I think what people said speaks for itself. Like upon, as we've done, kind of just looking at the cycle of things, which is what this article is hopefully trying to do, which is just take step by step how one claim formed into another. There's not too much else to really, speak on. Like it's quite evident upon looking at how this claim was twisted and turned and amplified into something else that we see that this is, not an awful pattern, but also we can understand how this has happened before. But those are just specific moments that kind of stuck to my mind as we sort of re-looked at this cycle again.
Right. I mean, I think what's really important to remember, because some people may think like, okay, well, it's bad that Rashida Tlaib is being smeared and it's obviously racist, but well, that pales in comparison to seeing people being blown up in Gaza and Lebanon. But the reason that this is relevant is because it's the same media that's smearing and lying about Tlaib that lies about what is happening in Gaza and in Lebanon. And I think that it's really important to note just how brazenly they were lying and how they were so clearly not afraid of any consequences because there's just no accountability. I mean, just imagine if Rashida Tlaib had accused someone of making Islamophobic comments without a shred of evidence. It would just, she'd be she'd be censored like she has been before. So I think it is a significant thing to watch, and it was also an interesting thing to watch in real time. This kind of like circle jerk, if you will, of the ADL, of Jake Tapper, of Dana Bash, of this outlet. So people get to like refer to each other and make it look like there's evidence, just like they get to refer to past smears as if that's evidence. So
It's a,
yeah,
I just to your point, which is, well taken, is that even claims of anti-Palestinian bias, Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hate, even those when there is clear proof or even seen on video, are those seldom taken seriously. I mean, just
right.
last
Nothing
week
happens. Yeah.
at the hate crimes hearing,
Oh my God.
we
Right.
see Senator Kennedy tell the only Muslim witness on this panel that was meant to be focused on hate crimes such as those against the 6-year-old boy, Wadi Al-Fouime in Chicago
Who was
months
stabbed to death.
ago. Yeah, this was a hearing that was meant to be focused on things like that. Much of the hearing was instead just a very meta argument about the hearing at all, about why it wasn't focused more on anti-Semitism. But at this hearing, Senator Kennedy, a Republican, told this Muslim witness, first she accused her unfoundedly of being supportive of Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. And after this witness, kept saying like, why are you saying this? This is ridiculous. Like, trying to focus on the stakes at hand. He just kept saying it. And finally, as he continued speaking over her, just said, you should put your head in a bag.
Yeah, that's how he ended it, right?
Which I mean, in whatever interpretation you take that sentence is horrific. And there has been no, congressional response
Right.
or widespread condemnation beyond, the handful of organizations and members of Congress who are willing to do so. And that is a hateful comment, a hateful moment seen on camera, which isn't even taken seriously. So the sort of incongruency is quite notable. And again, to your point broadly, whether it's Rashida Tlaib's words being taken and twisted or a hate crime hearing being taken over by these disgusting comments, both instances are moments for which the actual substance of what ought to be discussed is totally brushed aside. In the hearings instance, there should be discussion about hate crimes, about the rising level of hate in this country. I mean, in the audience, there was both the 6-year-old's mom, who was also stabbed. She was in the audience, as well as family members of someone who was shot at the Tree of Life shooting. And neither of those family members were acknowledged by most of the panel, especially the Republicans in this hearing. And then here, again, Rashida Tlaib's initial remarks criticizing Dana Nessel were about the prosecution of people protesting Israel's war on Palestine and the university support for it, their tuition dollars going to this violence on Palestine. These students who were arrested allegedly by police who allegedly used batons, who used this spray called deep freeze, which I think, let me pull it up. It's self-described as the, quote, most intense incapacitating agent available today. And so in both these moments, they're connected to a much larger set of issues that warrants deep, candid discussion in this country. But over and over again, either those topics, to your point, are also sort of obfuscated or lied about. And then in the meantime, while these larger issues are sort of left up to debate, in the meantime, these smaller sort of narratives are then pulled out. Whether it's Republicans sort of taking over and hijacking a hearing on hate crimes, or whether it's a media narrative sort of just totally smearing Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian member of Congress. So there's this broader sort of system of distraction at play.